There's so much new opportunity being created, as we're able to up level and deliver higher and higher levels of value up the stack for customers than we've been able to do before. Solve problems we've not been able to solve before, solve existing ones 10 times better. So the best is yet to come. We're committed to our partner success. We're going to continue to invest a lot of time and effort into building capabilities that lets them go and add value to our joint customers. And I cannot wait to see the things they will do with the platform going forward.
We've got a very special episode of Owning the Outcome to kick off the year, a conversation with Duncan Lennox, HubSpot's Chief Product and Technology Officer, who joined the company in September. Duncan is an extraordinary product and technology leader with deep hands-on experience. He has built and run startups from the ground up and led product strategy at some of the largest companies in the world, giving him a rare perspective on both speed and scale. Duncan brings a relentless focus on customers and business impact, delivering real value and not technology for technology's sake. What truly sets Duncan apart, though, is how he leads. He's a collaborative, people-first leader known for his openness, kindness, and ability to lift teams up and culture. Originally from Ireland and now based in California, Duncan also brings a global perspective shaped by years of leadership across continents. Duncan, you're very welcome to this very special episode of Owning the Outcome. We're so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me here, Sarah. It's great to be able to join you.
So, first of all, for partners and customers who are really meeting you maybe for the first time today, what I'd love to talk about is your path. So you've been a founder, you've moved into product, you've been a technical leader. What's the through line that brought you to HubSpot?
Yeah, I think if the through line for me is probably about customers and solving problems for customers. Perhaps simplistic as that sounds. I grew up in a small business in Dublin, working in my father's, gas station. And then I put myself through college writing accounting software, working for another small business owner. And I think that notion of really understanding what it means to build a business, a small business, a family business is really kind of my through line. I ended up then founding a couple of enterprise SaaS startup companies that I ran for a long time. And then even at places like Amazon and Google, and of course now HubSpot, it's really all focused on customers. And in particular, small business customers who maybe don't have the technical depth and expertise in-house and are looking to us to provide that through the product.
If I can be a little bit nosy for a minute, Duncan, because I am nosy and we're gonna get nosy in this episode. You said, very casually that you've kind of, started to use SaaS companies, just like everyone else does that. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about what that experience was like?
Yeah, when I started my first company, I was still in graduate school in Dublin, and I ended up accidentally writing one of the first learning management systems in the world. This was the early days of the web and, what we later came to call e-learning. And, to your point about that being really early on, we would go in to talk to potential customers and have to explain what the internet was and then what the web was and then why you might want to use it in a business context before we actually got to our product. So it was very, very much the early days, even pre-cloud and pre-mobile.
Yeah. And that really, I think, speaks to your experience about leading teams through some pretty big transformations and product shifts before this moment. And we're talking about AI a lot. I'd love to know for the partners that are listening in particular, what lessons are you bringing to HubSpot right away from that past?
Well, I think HubSpot does a great job on this generally, but we can always do more and do better. And that's really around this notion of, are we deeply understanding the problems that our customers are trying to solve? Not what we think they are, but what they think they are. And making sure we're prioritizing building solutions that focus on those. And in particular, I think one of the things that I learned, particularly through my own startups, is that even though I'm a computer scientist, an engineer, a nerd, and I love technology, you've got to make sure you're not leading with the technology, that you're starting with deeply understanding the problem. And the technology is in service of finding great solutions to those problems. And like many things with AI, I think AI has just magnified those things, not changed them. Meaning, if you try to lead too much with technology, you'll be even less successful than perhaps in the old days if you'd done that. And the answer is always come back to the customer and their problems.
And let's talk a little bit about HubSpot, because we have to. And when you think about the HubSpot product today, first of all, like, wow, we've come so far. But, you coming in new to HubSpot, what excites you most about where we are and where we can go as a company?
Yeah, I mean, I've known HubSpot as a customer and as an entrepreneur in the Boston startup ecosystem for a long time. And it's been amazing to see the journey starting with marketing and then into a broader platform and CRM. And now this full product portfolio that we have today across the whole customer platform. The exciting thing about it for me is this focus on small businesses or non-technical businesses of any scale, where our job, which is actually the harder job, is to build something that applies the technology in service of their problems and then deliver something that's incredibly easy, fast, and unified, as we like to talk about all the time at HubSpot. And when I look at what AI can do for us going forward, this is one of the most exciting times, because although the technology is certainly overhyped, particularly in the consumer space, and it's not all singing and dancing, it can't solve every problem that we have. At the same time, it is an incredible new tool for us to enable us to solve problems 10x better than we were able to solve them before. And in some cases, tackle problems we couldn't solve with software before, or at least not economically.
I suppose, again, if I think about, I'm a partner listening to this podcast, I'm trying to understand, how do I build a business based on what HubSpot are doing in the AI space? So what would you say to partners who are trying to build new revenue streams, especially related to AI? What do you think the opportunity is for them?
Yeah, I think there's never been more opportunity. I mean, the first thing I'd say is, from a HubSpot point of view, is we've built our whole business on the notion of working with a thriving partner ecosystem. So we're very motivated to make sure we're not just building a product portfolio that solves our customers' problems, but that enables our partners to be successful as well, because that's ultimately how we're successful with our customers. And when you look at the changes that AI are bringing, yes, it's very disruptive and very transformative. There's pros and cons to that, like with any new disruptive or transformative technology. But I think it creates a couple of different sets of opportunities. I think number one, in the short term, which is now 2026, I think it's really all about how do we help customers collectively, the partners and us together, understand AI and how to use it. So, for example, a very practical example of that would be, although the frontier models are amazing, and then we at HubSpot have built some incredible capabilities on top of those and leveraging those, whether it's some of our agents or whether it's embedded AI that we have, there's still work to be done to tune it to the needs of an individual customer. Right? That could be as simple as prompt engineering. It could be more complex and sophisticated integrations of data, bringing that into our unified data platform so it's available for customers to leverage. And customers need a lot of help with that. Again, we're obviously often dealing with customers that AI is just something they're hearing about. It's not their bread and butter. They just want to grow their businesses, whatever industry or geo that might be in. So there's a ton of opportunity to really help customers understand and then leverage AI with the HubSpot platform. Longer term, I think there's going to be a whole new set of opportunities as we up level. So what I mean by that is, typically what we see when a new technology comes along is to overly simplify, it tends to automate some things that have maybe required more human steps and effort in the past. But that creates new opportunities higher up the stack to add more value in different ways we weren't able to get to before as partners or as HubSpot. And I think there's no doubt that AI is going to be a big accelerator there as well.
You talked about this a little bit, but if we can maybe just go a little bit deeper on it. Obviously, our partners at HubSpot are both solution partners and app partners, and we have many dual citizens who do both. When we think about those partners that are building apps in particular, and they're looking for that strategic opportunity to extend the product, as you've rightly said, that's really where the magic of partners can be, to help adapt it to a particular customer's needs. What's your advice to them in terms of what they should, or how they should think about it?
I think there's a few different things. Firstly, I think a huge part of the value that partners bring is the domain expertise that they have for the industry verticals, geos, or sectors that they work in. That's something that we don't have. We're trying to build for everybody. And so that's an area where they can add tremendous value. And there'll always be a set of functionality that's unique to a particular area, business problem, etc. And, we won't get to build all of those things. And it wouldn't make sense for us to. We really want those to be partner opportunities. So I think that's a huge value add area. And our job, I think, is to make sure we're delivering the most comprehensive set of tools, capabilities, and a platform that lets our partners build on that. And that's something we're continuing to invest a lot of, time and effort and money into. So for sure, that's a huge area.
And so the old saying is very true, which is look for the gap in the market, but then make sure there's a market in that gap, I suppose, when it comes to building. One thing I suppose that we're all navigating at the minute within HubSpot and for our partners is that our customers' expectations are changing. How do you think AI changes what customers are expecting from a platform like HubSpot?
Yeah, I think it raises the bar for what customers expect, and rightly so. I mean, again, if I use an analogy of an earlier transformation like mobile technology, when the rise of mobile and mobile apps happened, 2008 kind of timeframe, first with the iPhone, that changed users' expectations of what it would mean to interact with software. So it really raised the bar because consumer apps just had and continue to have generally a higher fit and finish, a level of polish to them, and ease of use. Classically, enterprise software has not had that. I mean, I think at HubSpot, we've done a much better job than most companies in making sure we built a simple, easy to use product. AI has raised the bar again because now there's more of an expectation around, well, I can just, I can just type into, ChatGPT or whatever it is, what I'm looking for, and it figures out what I mean and gets me the answer for it, like putting it together, not just finding a link to a web page anymore, but actually assembling an answer generatively for me. So that certainly raises the bar, but that also is tremendous opportunity for HubSpot and our partners as a result, because we all get to build on this technology. We have this technology available to us, so we can deliver more complete solutions to customer problems than we could before. We can do things like take what maybe used to be a 10-step process for one of our users and turn it into a 1 or 2-step process, maybe with an approval step as your second step in there. So it creates a lot of opportunity. I will say again that it comes back to, though, reinforcing the need to understand the customer problem deeply. Because if you need to solve that problem end to end, turn those 10 steps into 1 or 2, you really need to deeply understand the problem to be able to do that effectively for a large group of customers.
Absolutely. And speaking of outcomes, even for kind of the org that you're leading, what do you see as the most important outcomes for the product organization in terms of delivering for customers and partners in the next 12 months?
I really do feel what we have to make sure we're always focused on is delivering value and time to value being very short. I mean, there's a tendency again to think of, even when you're thinking of it from a customer problem point of view, breaking it down into the steps of the task. And that's good. That's necessary part of understanding what solution we need to build. But you can never lose sight of the fact that ultimately customers have business outcomes they're trying to drive. And getting to that point is ultimately what matters. So, we know obviously our customers are trying to grow their businesses, whether that's by increasing the leads into the top of the funnel, managing deals through the funnel better, providing amazing customer support in a post-sales environment, etc. So understanding those outcomes and then being able to leverage AI to deliver these 10x better solutions than we've been able to do before. I mean, for me, at the end of the day, what we want to build is not just products that work, but products that deliver joy and delight. It's really all about lovable products at the end of the day, which is really a combination of meeting the customer outcomes and delivering a great experience for customers while we're doing it.
Absolutely. And, I know you've been spending a lot of time with customers and partners since your arrival. I know you've kind of made it your mission to really get out there and listen. I'm interested to hear what kind of feedback have you heard in the conversations you've been having with partners and customers on the sheer number of features that we've released in recent times?
Yeah, I mean, like as I talk to partners, like in small groups and one-on-one and so forth, I would say a constant theme that I have heard, which I'll simplify, partners say it much more politely than I'll say it, but it's basically, please stop releasing as many things and make the things you have work better. And I think there's a fairness to that comment, right? If you try to do too many things, it's difficult to do any of them well. So I tend to be a believer in making sure we take that what we were talking about before of deeply understanding the customer's problems, also understanding the priorities of those, which are the biggest ones, which are the most impactful ones for their business, and let's focus on a smaller number of those to a very high quality bar. And I think that's particularly important when we're leveraging AI as much as we are in everything that we build now, because the bar is high for AI to be able to take that 10-step process and get it down to one step and not be frustrating for a customer or for a partner who's trying to help a customer do that. The quality bar has to be very high. And so I'm, in that sense, a more wood behind fewer arrows kind of guy. And I think that's how we deliver maximum value for customers. And as we deliver those, then of course we can move on to tackle more problems. But over time, I think it allows us to deliver more value faster for customers.
I mean, I suppose the other thing I'm curious about, Duncan, again, as I think about the conversations that I'm having with partners, we have done some great stuff to move up market, in the recent past. But many of our customers and our heritage really is in small businesses. And so I'd love to understand, how do you think about the product strategy here, balancing between, those two very different sets of needs?
Yeah, no, it's something we're very deliberately and thoughtfully, focusing on, because we have been very fortunate that we've had a lot of larger companies adopt HubSpot over the last number of years, and we're building a lot of capabilities that are needed for customers operating at that scale. But we're certainly never going to forget where we started and where the core of our customers are, which is, as you said, the small businesses. And broadly speaking, I think what you end up seeing is that larger customers want control and configurability, and smaller businesses want simplicity and automation. And so we're deliberately in 2026 and beyond making sure we have roadmaps that focus on both of those different segments differently. Of course, overall, they're trying to solve the same kind of problems, grow their business, drive leads, move deals through the funnel, etc. But there's different capabilities that they need. So we're focusing on making sure we're prioritizing and delivering those separately.
When I think again about small businesses and really the competitive landscape out there for HubSpot, we have a lot of these native CRM companies, coming up. How do you think about that from a positioning point of view for those small businesses? Again, you're relatively new in your journey at HubSpot, but with fresh eyes comes fresh perspective. How would you pitch to a small business as to why HubSpot is still the best place to grow your business?
Yeah, I think, well, first thing I'd say is that competition is great and it's always welcome. It's great for keeping you on your toes, right? It's very easy for even the most customer focused company to get, somewhat stuck in its ways, if you will, and not realize some of the changes that are happening. I don't think that's HubSpot, to be clear, because I think we've embraced AI very early and very effectively. But nevertheless, it's really healthy to get us to make sure we're really stepping back and saying, what's changed here? How can we build differently in the age of AI, for example, right? So number one, that's really healthy for us. I think in terms of what I would say to a customer, I do think, particularly in the age of AI, the notion of really having complete customer context is critical, meaning our customers' customers. And with AI, the more specific the context you have, the better the outcomes that you can drive, meaning having the right set of information about your customers and using that to drive a marketing campaign to help figure out what the next best action on moving a deal through the pipeline is and so forth. And HubSpot is very unique with our unified customer platform, where we allow you to bring together all of this structured data that's in the CRM and so forth, but also unstructured data from all kinds of other sources, informal sources that you might have. Increasingly, that includes things like AI note takers, as an example, right, where we may have transcripts from a sales call or summaries coming out of that. And then being able to bring all of that together to drive that context. So you have the maximum view of an individual customer and prospect. That's always been helpful for a sales rep, a marketing person, whoever it might be. In the age of AI, that becomes critical to be able to allow that to drive the AI outcomes, the generative outcomes we're looking for as well. And although there's a number of companies that talk about having these different components, they've usually kind of been bolted together from different things, whereas HubSpot natively built this as a single unified platform. So as our partners know, for example, there is a single unified HubSpot object model where all of the data is available. And I think that is a technical difference, but a foundational one that allows our customers to drive better results easier.
I could not agree more. It takes an awful lot of work on the product side to create the magic that gives that customer that true delight moment in the way that they use AI. So I 100% agree with you. And I think many of our partners would as well. As you look at, the ecosystem as we navigate this AI era, what do you believe partners need to be successful?
I think there's probably a few things. I mean, the first thing I would say is don't underestimate how transformative AI is in terms of changing not just the solutions that we can build, but how we build them. And I often talk about the fact internally to folks that this is the biggest change to how we build software, not what we build, but how we build it in probably 50 years. It's a very new, different kind of technology. It feels very different because it's probabilistic in nature, can generate, a different answer for the same inputs each time, et cetera. And because it's so powerful, we're all still figuring out where are the edges of what it can do. And of course, then the models themselves are getting better all the time on top of that. So we're very much at the starting line, not the finishing line when it comes to AI and LLMs. So number one priority is, I think you need to make sure that everybody in your organization is really deeply understanding AI and how they're using it in their professional lives, for example, I think can be a great part of understanding that. And then for your engineers and solution architects and so forth, obviously they need to be more technically familiar with its capabilities. This is going to be a very big transformation. A lot of things are changing in how we build solutions and how we implement solutions for customers as a result. So I think that's going to be the starting point for sure.
Duncan, can I also ask you, as a leader of people, so obviously you have a ton of product expertise and, with the way things are going and we can experiment in product and we can look at outcomes for customers. When we think about this change with AI, obviously there are many leaders out there of our partners who are going to bed on a Tuesday and waking up on a Wednesday, and the world is different. Just when you think about managing your own team of humans, how do you approach navigating that so much change?
I do think the biggest change that we have to deal with is not the technological change, but the cultural change, which of course is driven by the technological change, right? So to be a little bit cliched about it for a moment, it's how do we help our teams to get comfortable being uncomfortable? Right. Mm-hmm. So, and I think there's kind of two components to that. So the first one is that notion of recognizing and embracing that things are changing and moving fast, right? And that is just the way it is right now. That is an externality. You have no control over it. So you just need to accept it, right? So, and embrace it, as part of that. I think number two then is, it is still though, stick to your knitting, go back to first principles, which I don't think have changed, which is really two things for me. Number one is deeply peeling the onion on understanding customers' problems, being obsessed on the problems customers have. It's difficult to go wrong or spend too much time deeply understanding the problems customers have. We almost always spend too little time on it. And then the second thing is recognizing that we can move very quickly now in the age of AI with POCs and demos and even early versions in production. And that's great. I'm a big believer in let's define what an MVP is, then let's get it into customers' hands and let's iterate and iterate and iterate. However, you do have to maintain a high bar for quality along the way. And again, that's particularly true, I think, or magnified in the world of AI. I mean, I often think of, in the old days when we built something, if we missed the mark a little bit on exactly what the UX experience was or exactly how it worked, a customer could probably muddle their way through and get an outcome. It might be a little bit frustrating. That's not what we want, but they could get there. With AI, if your quality bar is not high enough, you can actually create a negative issue for the customer. You can make things worse than not doing anything. I think of myself when I'm out driving around and I ask Siri to play a song, and I'm a pretty calm, analytical person. But if there was, a camera in my car, you would see me screaming, furious at Siri for playing the wrong song for me, where it would have actually been better to just say, I don't know what you mean, or I don't have that song available.
Yeah.
And actually activating Siri in the background here while I talk because I keep using the name, which I'm not doing now. But, there's a really important trust issue associated with that, where it becomes a net negative if we can't deliver to a high enough quality bar, because now you've actually made my day worse, because now I have to maybe undo the thing you just did, or at least I'm now still back at zero, but I've wasted time. So you can actually erode trust. And then, of course, that becomes hard to win back, because now the user is feeling, well, I tried it before and it didn't do a great job. I'm not going to make that mistake again. So there's a real need for that high bar on quality and what that means with AI.
What do you think, though, as HubSpot, from your point of view and where you're sitting today, what do you think we need to do to make sure that we maximize our partners' success as they are the people focused on those outcomes for our customers?
I mean, I think there's a few different things. Firstly, we have to start with making sure we're delivering a platform that has a comprehensive set of capabilities that's best in class for go-to-market teams, whether that's small businesses or larger businesses. I mean, that's really got to be the foundation that we continue to build on as part of that. Secondly, then, for partners, because we've built our strategy so foundationally on partners to make them successful and us successful, we've got to make sure that we're delivering the tools, the APIs on top of those capabilities that lets them tailor them for our joint customers' needs. So to use AI as an example, providing more quality tools around it, being able to actually see and assess the quality of solutions that are built on AI, whether it's one of our agents or an embedded capability and so forth, that a partner can then help fine tune for an individual customer's needs and so forth too. It's still relatively early days for LLMs around a lot of the tooling, particularly on quality and things like observability and being able to understand what's going on. So we're investing a lot in making sure we can build out those capabilities so that our partners can take the foundation that we've put together and then build on that to meet the unique needs of each of their customers. So we have to be maniacally focused on that. In one sense, you have to look at it very clearly as we have end user customers, if you will, our joint customers with partners. But partners are an incredibly important stakeholder, a different kind of customer for us. And we need to make sure we understand the needs of partners and are meeting them as well so that they can be successful. I often talk about the fact that when you're building a capability to solve a problem, it's not enough to build a feature, right? You have to be building something that actually drives an outcome. But beyond that, we have to design and build products and capabilities that are designed to be demoed, POC'd, implemented, maintained over time, et cetera as well. These can't be bolt-on things. These have to be designed into how we think about building the capability in the first place.
Absolutely. I also want to say congratulations, Duncan, because the podcast is called Owning the Outcome. And I think you will win the prize for the most focused on owning the outcome, because you're 100% right. It's all about that. Is there anything, Duncan, that I'm so interested? You've been innovating literally for a long, long time, right? Right back to Ireland, you're like innovating. Is there anything that rattles Duncan? Like, is there anything that you think to yourself, I'm unsure of that, or that worries me? Because I'm fascinated. You clearly have a very, clear and focused mind about things, but is there anything that actually does rattle Duncan?
I don't get rattled easily, I will say. Like somebody asked me at one point, like, what makes you nervous? What makes you excited? And my answer to that was, I don't get nervous. My spectrum is from neutral to excited, and generally it's more towards excited. I'm an optimist, a techno optimist, I think, overall. It doesn't mean we don't have real challenges along the way, but ultimately, I think technology in service of your fellow human allows you to do great things, and I think we've proven that out. But I certainly don't know where all the things are going, and AI is the most uncertain technology that I've worked with in terms of where it's going. I mean, again, we're at the starting line, not the finishing line. I find that exciting. I think you just have to keep a flexible mind.
I suppose as we kind of come to the end of our conversation, Duncan, I'm interested if you wanted partners to take one thing away from our conversation today, what would be that thing that you want them to take away?
I'd say, we could not be more committed to our partners and their success than we are. It is how we have foundationally built our business. We see it as our job to build the core foundation capabilities, the platform, the extensibility, and so forth, and then making that available to our partners to be able to tailor it to the needs of our customers. So we're very focused on our partners and making sure they're successful. I think as we move forward and we're leveraging AI more, as we continue to build out the platform, I recognize that can be disruptive for partners, can be anxiety inducing in some cases because of the level of transformation that AI is bringing. But I really do believe the best is yet to come for us and for our partners. There's so much new opportunity being created, as we're able to up level and deliver higher and higher levels of value up the stack for customers than we've been able to do before, solve problems we've not been able to solve before, solve existing ones 10 times better. So the best is yet to come. We're committed to our partner success. We're going to continue to invest a lot of time and effort into building capabilities that lets them go and add value to our joint customers. And I cannot wait to see the things they will do with the platform going forward.
Duncan, thank you so much for joining us on The Outcome. It's been a wonderful conversation with you. We're excited to have you at HubSpot. And I know partners will be really super excited to hear all about your point of view.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm really enjoying being here and appreciated the opportunity to talk to you and to our partners.